Daddy, are you recording again?
Yep, it's time for Relatable Dads Unscripted.
Oh, okay. I hope they enjoyed this episode.
On today's episode, I'm joined by none other than Corporal Heenan, a 22-year Army veteran who served multiple tours, including Iraq, Northern Ireland, and Bosnia. We talk about brotherhood, PTSD, and what it really feels like to leave the forces and be the forgotten man. He opens up about mental health, fatherhood, losing friends, and the moment he realized that he needed help himself. This isn't a war story, it's a human one. So stay with us, leave a comment, please share, please like. Thanks very much and enjoy the episode. Welcome back to Relatable Dads Unscripted. We're still figuring out fatherhood, one honest conversation at a time. And today, I've got a very special guest, a guest that has had me at attention, a guest that has showered at me, made me bra stuff, made me fucking clean up a barracks. My old Provo Corporal Sergeant Heenan. Thank you for coming on.
My pleasure, mate. After so many years. It's been an absolute blast today, this morning. So thank you for inviting me.
So no, you're more than welcome. So I was in basic training in 2011, and I was me and Bastin, one of my very and Jonesy were like two of my very good friends from the army. We were little shits, to say the least, whilst we was in the army, and especially during basic training. And we used to get in trouble, and then we'd have to go and see Corporal Heenan, who would make us do shit duties around.
Not shit duties, practical duties. Like cleaning the barracks, picking up apples that was on the floors and stuff like that, brushing up, cleaning the parade square and the seats and stuff like that. Practical for pass-off parades and stuff like that. So I'd say practical, and to be able to talk. I think it was important to say to recruits, ask them why you were there in the first place, what you'd done wrong, and then to try and give you advice and courage and ask you, and say, look, why you done that wrong, to try and identify what had happened, and then in circumstances try and turn it from your negativity into positivity and saying, look, what have you learned from today? I'm learning that I'm not going to be doing this again, and then you learn that lesson. But then if you came back again, it'd be a little bit higher.
So did I come back again?
Yes, quite a few times. Quite a few times, I'm afraid. I do remember you for being infamous would be the word. The three of you were quite the characters. I was actually quite proud of you when you passed off. I thought that you wouldn't make it, to be honest with you, because the amount of trouble you were in. It did come close a few times. The OCs said in the RSM that said at the time, if they keep going, it's going to get to the stage where we're going to have to say, no.
I think Bastin was a bad influence on me. I'm putting it all on him.
I don't know. I wasn't in the barracks at that time, so I can only say it was a three-way street. Each one of these was just as bad as each other in my books.
Bastin was like, I think me and him were just like Tweedledum and Tweedledee. So anytime that I was in trouble, he was always next to me. And anytime he was in trouble, I was always next to him. But we both passed out, and to this day is still one of my proudest moments, passing out. 16th of December 2011, I had my mum, my dad, like one of my nans there, both my nans were there, and it was a special day for me. It's
a beautiful memory to have, isn't it? It's something that you hold on to for years in your natural life. I still remember the day that I passed off in Glencoe's barracks in Pennycook in 1990. You know what I mean? And then literally 6 months later, I was at war. I went to Iraq. We went into Kuwait City, through Kuwait, did prisoner of war handling with Iraqi prisoners. We had thousands and thousands of them. And just that impact of, we're going to go to war, wow, like that, instantaneous. And
was there a fear? Was there a fear, or was it just kind of excitement?
A lot of fear in some ways, because obviously I just joined the army. I was a bit more mature than a lot of lads. I was 22. Like some of the lads that joined, they were like 16. You could join for at 16. You still can at 16, and then you'd go to the battalion at 18 after 2 years doing the infantry training centre, and then they go to the battalion. So a lot of the lads were a lot, that more mature than what I was soldier wise. So and they kind of kept you under the wing for the first couple of months, and then when you went to Iraq, the corporals and that, but you depend on each other. There's that brotherhood. You know what I mean? Integrity, loyalty, selfless commitment, courage. You're always taught that when you're first in.
I still remember all of
selfless commitment.
courage, discipline, respect, integrity, loyalty, selfless commitment, sea drills. I still remember it to this day without fail.
And there's nothing wrong to have that in your life. You know what I mean? If you can live your life with those in your mind, and that you always treat others the way you expect to be treated. That's the way I did my 22. You know what I mean? From start to finish. You know what I mean? I went from everywhere: royal family, Prince Andrew visiting, Princess Margaret, and Oakington Barracks, right down to I got a hair done in the middle of the rack, gave him a cup of coffee, cup of tea, treated him the same amount of respect.
Talking of that respect, I put up a post recently about like obviously growing up as a black man in Britain, and like I served in the British Army, and I put up a picture basically saying like I never felt really like I don't feel like I'm British. I feel like I'm a black. I feel like I'm a Englishman born. I feel like I'm a black guy born in Britain instead of a British man.
And I'm sorry to hear that. Do you know that? Something that pains me with a bit of guilt. Like, there's things about like the English flag going up, right? And it's causing people offence and stuff like that. I'm Scottish, right? And I could go, well, that caused me offence. But do you know what? I wore the British flag. And that was part of the country. This country came together to do that. We encourage people for, I can't remember, the boat, the people that came for the boats, the Jamaicans, stuff like that. I can't remember what the name of the boat was. Windrush, that's it. HMS Windrush. And people like that, 60 years later, get told they have to go back to Jamaica. And I'm like, what? Excuse me?
It's sad. It is very
Excuse
sad.
me? Pardon? You know what I mean? And that really irritates me. And I'm sorry to hear that you suffered that sort of, you felt that was the case, because I certainly never ever, I treated everybody the exact same way. I served with a lot of Fijian lads and all that. Do you know what I mean? All different people, Gurkhas, you know.
Yeah, they're best soldiers.
Yep, the best soldiers in the world. Do you know what I mean? So, and they treated me with respect, and so I treated them with respect. And I think that's an important life lesson that I learned in the army. Do you know what I mean? Before that, I was kind of naive.
But when I put that up, there was a lot of people that commented and said like blah blah blah, but it was your comment that kind of choked me, because you put, please do not let minority racists ruin you, a kind, caring and understanding man. I'm proud to have memories of you as a soldier and a man. Race and creed were never in question with me. I'm proud to have you as a friend and a veteran. I also remember that day like yesterday. And it just like, of all the comments and everything else, probably your one stood out the most.
Thank you so much. I didn't know that. I didn't know that I had that impact on you.
Yeah, obviously.
I'm glad. Do you know something that makes me happy? Mentally happy. You know what I mean? We'll speak about that later, obviously. But that gives me a good fuzzy feeling inside, because I feel that it's important to have a positive impact on people, especially in training. You know, because you're away for your family, you're away for your friends, you're away for anywhere you knew, and you're new to a place. Somebody's got a bit of character, you know, and try to get you in a bit of trouble. And you kind of, it's like lead the leader, you know what I mean? Kind of thing. And you were kind of waylaid, but then you matured, learned the lessons that you'd learned from me and probably other provost staff and your corporals and sergeants. And then did your time, you know what I mean? Obviously, you get posted where you get posted, but up the Highlands, -20 and that night in Inverness.
Not about that life.
Well, you know.
Not about that life at all. So, going into a bit about you. So, you served, how long did you serve for?
22 years.
Okay, what rank did you leave?
I'd left as a corporal.
You have to?
Right, substantive corporal, it said. Okay. Got promoted to sergeant. Basimon Malik shut down. So technically corporal. Okay. Acting sergeant. So
not fair. So obviously it's a dad's podcast. So talk me an overview of your family dynamic.
Well, grew up in Glasgow for about till I was 13. Then we moved into Ardrossan. Me and my mum and dad moved into Ardrossan to get away. Had two sisters. Brought up and bred. And believe it or not, you think I go like this, I actually took drugs before I joined the army. Smoking hash, doing the stupid things you do. And a young lassie in Kilmarnock had been given a Mickey Finn of drugs and a drink. And I read about it and I was like, seen an advert for the army. I was only 22 at the time. I was a lot older. I wish knew. I could retrospectively went back at 16 and rejoined. I had nothing. No driving licenses, no education, nothing. Absolutely nothing when I joined the army. And the army was the making of me. It was the best thing and the worst thing in some ways. You know, better because I got a lot of better memories than what I've got bad memories. You know what I mean? The bad times.
Yeah.
Like Bosnia. Bosnia was terrible. It was a terrible thing. People were murdering each other left, right and centre, using religion as an excuse. Same as in Ireland, in Bosnia and Ireland and Iraq was a totally different kettle of fish.
So talk me over, because obviously you're talking about different tours that you've done. So go through like what tours you have actually done then. Yo, big man, I really need 4 things from you. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. It really will help the channel grow, and I need Ian Wright on this channel. So please like, comment, share, subscribe, and now back to the episode. Thanks very much.
I did the first Gulf War in 1991. Northern Ireland 4 to 5 times in Bosnia. Kosovo, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Vitez, Novi Travnik, all of that. Then went with Pristina, the Black Watch, and then we did the Gulf War. And then my son came along. He was £2.13, 10 weeks Brem. So I was up with our girls at the time doing Howe Barracks in Canterbury. And they said, well, because my son was so premature, they wouldn't send me. Then they sent me to Basenborn.
Okay.
And that was my last sort of 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
And I did that and finished at Basenborn. And then settled down where I'm settled down now. So, but it's difficult when you get out. It really is, because once the gate's shut, you don't get any phone calls. Nobody checks up on you to make sure you're okay. Nobody sends you a letter, nobody phones you, nobody emails you. And there's that difficulty when you get out, the door's shut. It's like a lot of
was the community shut as well?
Not the community. I wouldn't say the veterans community, right? Veterans community, I'm in contact with a lot of lads, stuff, the Regimental Museum, Harry Roy, it's up there, Captain Harry Roy, he's in charge of the Regimental Museum, and the Veterans and the RHF website. So, yes, I've got contact with veterans when and if I want it, and they're always available to talk to and spitball, like you do with the veterans yourself, But apart from that, there's nothing for the army. There's no, you might get resettlement grants and education grants, but there's no education to help you getting out to Civvy Street after doing what some would see being institutionalised, almost as if you're getting out the prison, It's the same sort of ilk. A lot of lads that get out of the army either go prison service, police service, fire service, or, another uniform service, or they do HGV. If they're like lower rank, higher ranks, like officers and stuff like that, they'll normally do like CEOs and stuff like that, that sort of managerial ilk. But if you're not educated to that, and you're not prepared for that, and they don't prepare you for it, and you don't know what you're going to do, you kind of like a wee low sheep to you. It took me about maybe 5 years to.
How did you find that transition going into?
Very hard. After being out, being in, because everything's regimented for you. You're up at 6 o'clock. You're out doing your runs. You're doing your PT. You're doing, you know yourself. And then it's at 4 o'clock. You're back home, uniform off, time with the family, eat your dinner, right back to sleep, iron the uniform, and then it's ready for the next day. And plus the fact there's like any time you could be called up like that.
What's one thing civilians would never understand about forces life?
That you can be under call at any time. Basically, you could have 12 hours notice to move. Literally 12 hours notice to move. You could be told.
Is that from an infantry battalion or?
Infantry battalion, well, anybody in the army can be called up within 12 hours. You can be on leave. I know guys that were on leave during Christmas, during Lockerbie. I never did Lockerbie. I hadn't joined at the time, but the lads were telling me they were on Christmas leave and they get called on Christmas leave. Back today, they clean up the Lockerbie. You know what I mean? During Christmas leave. So,
that's what it is.
And that was 12 hours notice to move. Woof, you're going back to camp, phone calls. Do you know what I mean? With the kids probably the Christmas dinner and told ring, fuse my glint up there. Yeah.
What's the
off you pop, you know what I mean?
What was the biggest struggle for you finding being in the army then?
Not being trained to get ready for the horror or some of the things that we've seen, some of the dead bodies and stuff like getting that. The first Gulf War, 91, was the Basra Highway. It was literally just a killing field. It was like burning trucks with bodies inside, burning, still toasting, with the smoke coming out. You have to train you for that. You're not trained for that. Nobody trains you for that.
So they train you for the physical aspect.
Train you for the physical and not the mental part of it, what you could see or be involved in, or even, like the secondary part of it, what happens after. And then when you come back, it's like as if it's not happened. Sometimes like you're told to bottle and, you know, and don't talk about it. And it's not seen as a manly thing to talk. That I did that thing with my hands. That manly thing, or if you say anything about it. And I heard rumours that if you did say anything, it kind of held you back and get promoted and stuff like that. And I believe that was, in my case, sometimes I opened my mouth and said I was affected by certain people dying and stuff like that, and stuff that I'd went through. And I feel, looking back retrospectively, that I was probably held back and promotion for that. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't physically written down anywhere, but I think that certain people in the higher ranks said, oh, no, you know what I mean? And it kind of held me back. And I think that in a lot of cases, a lot of lads that were still in or were in were scared to say anything in case it affected their career, you know, or promotion.
So what kind of, like, all right, so what would you say key moments throughout your military career has shaped you?
Learning discipline was important for me. I wasn't very disciplined when I was a child. Like, Dad used to hit me all the time because I was out of order, you know, stealing and stuff like that. Just total waste of space, taking drugs, like I was saying. And the army gave me that continuity, that courage, that discipline, that integrity, loyalty, selfless commitment. That instilled that into me a lot better than, you know, and that's why I said, look, if I could have rewind the clock, I'd have joined at 16, had that bit of my extra maturity in me. I'd have probably went to AFC Harrogate at 16, did 2 years there in college, I'd have got my education and all that. But, I mean, the army was the making of me. I had nothing new. You know, I've got a house, I've got a family, I've got a car, I've got a good education behind me, and I've got a good job. Do you know what I mean? So it was the making of me. You know what I mean? And it is the making of a lot of lads. You know, it can be the making of you.
So going back to, like, obviously, so you've got, how many children have you got? 3?
I've got 3. Yeah, two daughters, older daughters, and a son who's 18.
Okay, so your daughters, they were around when you was going on tour.
Yeah.
How did you find that, going from being dad one day to then going to effectively be shot at and to shoot weapons through anger? Like, how was the transition between dad mode and soldier mode?
It's actually, believe it or not, it's actually quite easy in some ways.
Okay.
Because you're kind of like trained and you kind of like, it's accepted because the kids are a little bit older. It's when you're younger that's harder. When you're going away for Christmases and stuff like that, that's when the biggest impact is, how that can hit and affect, you know what I mean? Because you're missing them out on a daily basis. You know, you could be away for 6 months, but for 3 months you could be in the high intensive bang, bang, boom, bang, 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 whatever, and then go back for 2 weeks and be expected to be okay, then go back again, into the bang, bang, boom, 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 and then you come back again, and yes, you might come back physically 100%, but mentally, there's always, like I said to you earlier, there's always a little piece of you that's left behind. Like, it might not necessarily be somebody that's died in your battalion or your company or whatever. You could have heard of somebody, you know, the day before or the week before, and then you see them flying out in the bodyguard in the helicopters, and you think to yourself, and even now when I'm looking, well, when Afghan's just finished, even now I'm like, whoa, and you're like, and there's that wee 1% of you that's always kind of held back. You come back and that, everything's back to normal, kids are going back to school, and do you know what I mean? Everybody's acting as if everything's okay, everything's back to, and it's not, you know, for you it's not. For them it is, because they've lived that life. You haven't, you know? And I think that's the hardest part, I would say.
They always do say that the families that are left behind have the hardest tours, because obviously you're out there in the action, doing it every day. I know it's tough what you're going through, but the family at home, they don't know what dad's up to.
It cost me my marriage. It cost me my first marriage because of the amount of time I was away. Do you know what I mean? Plus, the drugs that I found out that the malaria drugs that were taken during the 90s, they were actually illegal in the US Army, and they were antipsychotic drugs that we were taking that had a negative mental impact. And I was maybe being a bit more like aggressively with this to my ex-wife at the time, thinking that was perfectly okay, because in the drugs and stuff like that was doing it to me, and I was bottling up like a stupid idiot, like most guys did, and probably most guys still do it. thinking that, I'll be the hard man, and no, can't show lack of, what's the word for it, being a failure or being like lower or showing any emotion or something like that. You know what I mean? Because you could be roughy, toughy soldier, don't show the emotion. No, you can't be like. Do you know what I mean? That's the difference. You know what I mean? It's hard to explain. It really is hard to explain.
What did military culture? Did military culture prepare you for fatherhood or make it harder?
I don't think military did get me ready for fatherhood. Fatherhood's one of those things that kind of seems just to happen to you, doesn't it? You know what I mean? You don't know when you're going to be a father, do you? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Unless you planned it.
What's the biggest challenge you face as a father so far?
Having to try and get that contact with your children again, like coming back for a tour and stuff like that. And then when they're getting older, they're like, well, you were always away, Dad. You were away a lot, Dad. They still say that to me, my daughters. Oh, you were away a lot, Dad. We don't have good memories of you when you're coming back because you were arguing with Mum and blah, blah, blah. And I've said to my daughters, hands up, yep, I've apologised to Mum. I even said to my ex-wife, I'm really sorry, for I was out of order with this and decided to take psychotic drugs, and I suffered through PTSD, and I've admitted that I had a problem. And me and her, buried the hatchet. And my daughters have said, yep, we can kind of get that now. So, and that relationship's slowly building. Yeah. But because of that past behaviour, that's had an impact on my, with my son in the last 17 years, it's just totally changed. Number one, I'd stopped taking anti-malaria drugs. Funny that. Mood changes and stuff like that. And then I've started admitting there's something wrong with me.
Obviously, because you was away so much throughout your daughter's lives, do you find that you're overly present now with your son?
Yeah. And plus the fact he was 10 weeks premature. He was 2 pound 13. He was the size of my hand. That was the only reason I never went to Afghanistan. Yeah. Otherwise, they would have sent me. You know what I mean? They'd say, yep, you're going. Off you pop. And I went to the battalion, and I would have done. Because, that's your job at the end of the day. And I wouldn't have cared what they made me do. I would have just done it, Yeah. Even though I was newly married at the time. It wouldn't have mattered because
that was a job.
That's what you do, you know what I mean? And then came back. And that's the thing. That's the deal with the forces,
So do you have any regrets about the forces life?
I wish I'd got promoted more. I wish I'd spent more time getting educated. That's my biggest regret. I wish I'd have realised that education was really important. The army seems to be switching on a bit more now with maturity of how to educate soldiers, you know what I mean? More help with mental health. They seem to be saying it or doing it. Seeing it happen is a different matter. That's the thing.
Do you have people who are still in at the moment?
I've got 2 or 3 people that are still in, Obviously can't see names.
So do you feel like there is a difference in terms of your time to what's going on?
A lot's changed. A lot more's changed. There is a lot more help for forces and that, and in opening up and stuff like that. But I still
whilst you're in, or as you get out?
Well, whilst you're in, the MOD are saying that they're helping people more. I don't know if that's the case. I've not heard it, but I can't comment on that. When you're out, it's more veterans societies and Men to Talk groups like that. A lot of like Royal British Legion and Combat Stress and Help for Heroes and that. They'll try to signpost you to like Samaritans or Combat Stress, or and they're good and Men to Talk. But the problem is, if you want to try and talk to a psychiatrist, right, or anybody that's not been in the military, and that military ilk, we can have a bit of banter, right? And you'd understand the ilk of that, how I'm trying to describe to you what we went through and how we went through it. And I would know that you'd understand that. Whereas if you hadn't served in the forces and I said stuff to you, I'd feel you didn't really understand it. Yeah. You didn't know why and how we did it and why we did it.
So you feel like you need more veterans who are therapists and psychologists?
Yeah, I think there's a thing called Up Fortitude on that that's really important. I know that does that for forces and stuff like that. That's helped a wee bit, Up Fortitude and that. So they're quite good. They'll signpost you, for any forces that are interested in that. So Men to Talk is a really good group, and a man cave,
That's like a men's support group.
In St. Neots and Cambridge. That's where I live. So they do big Wade all around that area. So
and it's not just a veterans thing.
It's not just a veterans, for everybody, anybody. And they'll talk, and it's not just about PTSD. It's about any health challenge, a mental health challenge that a man has. I had a farmer whose son had killed himself. The group leader, Luke, his mum and sister had died in a tragic car accident. There's a man that lost his baby, caught death and stuff like that. So there's that ilk of different mental health problems with people, people with anxiety that want to be able, that feel that they can talk and know what. I go there they do it every three weeks. Once every 3 weeks they do it at a golf club there. So and that's great. That's like 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock. So you get 3 years. They do a round table where everybody gets to talk if they want to talk. If you don't want to talk, you can sit back and listen. And plus the fact, if you're having a good week or a good day, you can tell everybody about that. And it's great because that gives them a positivity, rather than a negativity. You know what I mean?
What's one thing you say you're grateful now? Like if you look at your life from a bird's eye point of view, what would you say you're grateful for?
I'm grateful for my life, mate. I really am.
Yeah.
I'm lucky. Do you know what I mean? I look back and I think to myself, I was lucky. I mean, 5 tours in Northern Ireland, 6 tours to Bosnia, and 2 Gulf Wars, and I came out with it unscathed physically.
Yeah.
Then I count myself lucky that way. That's how I count myself lucky.
Yeah.
Not so much mentally so, because you don't prepare for that.
Yeah.
And you don't get trained for that.
So you say that you've struggled with like PTSD in the past. So just talk me through that, like how you knew you were struggling, and then when you knew that you needed to seek help for it.
Unfortunately, in Poland in 1995, there was a guy called Jason Glasgow. He got killed by a warrior, ran over him, and it was quite a young lad. He was only 22, 23, and it quite a negative impact on me. He was such a happy-go-lucky, lovely wee lad, brilliant, salt of the earth. And I never got to go to his funeral, and I felt really bad about it because he was really, quite a lovely wee guy, and honestly, salt of the earth. And I held on to that for 30 years, with grief and feeling guilty, and then dealing with death and Iraq and stuff, and bottling a lot. It was only when I went to Jason's grave that I managed to let go of the grief and say, look, I'm really sorry I couldn't make it. And seeing how young he was, and it brought it back to me, and I'm like, wow. So,
So that's when you realised that you kind of...
Aye.
Did you actually seek help, or is it kind of...
Well, what happened was I actually had a nervous breakdown. My dad had... my mother had been told that she had terminal liver cancer. And I had a nervous breakdown because one of my friends had actually killed himself. I'm not going to say the name. They killed themselves. And it really hit me. And I just woke up one morning and I said to my wife, I said, I need help. What do you mean? I need help. And that was my first step.
Yeah.
To admit to me that I'd bottled all this watching dead bodies and...
How long have you been feeling that you needed the help before you actually vocalised it?
I think it was only when I had the nervous breakdown, to be honest with you. Before that, I thought everything was normal.
Okay.
That was okay, you know what I mean? Until my friend had killed herself. And then I realised that my life wasn't what I thought it was. And I wasn't as happy with it, and I'd been arguing with my new wife. And she said to me, your behaviour and that, there's something wrong. And I looked at her and I went, I need help. And then that was my first step. Went to doctors. Doctors like, okay, some antipsychotic tablets, blah, blah, blah. On antidepressant tablet, to help you out. And I'm like, ooh, you know what I mean? That, that really, and I took it. Then my second step was to go to Men to Talk. And I went there for about 2 or 3 sessions, and I sat in the back. And then I thought, and I started to open up about my dad dying and what I'd went through. And it was like a release, an easy release. There would have been a time when I'd have to go to talk to you about what had happened in the past, like dead bodies in Iraq, having to deal with that. Picking up dead bodies in the second Iraq Gulf War, like 5 or 6 bodies. Nobody trains you for that. To pick up people's bodies that have been lying for 3 and 4 days in a sewer, and then go and taking it to a mortuary.
You see, you say one of your friends was a trigger for you to then seek help because they committed suicide.
Aye.
Did you have suicidal thoughts? Why you was like...
It wasn't suicidal thoughts. It was more dark thoughts of death, being frightened of death. Okay. That was a stupid thing. And then like, having nightmares of being on fire was a really crazy one. Having dreams of being on fire.
But you say that on the first Iraq tour, you saw
dead bodies and being on fire and stuff like that. And maybe that's what it's came back from. That spark of that scene. That there's dead bodies toasting in the Basra Highway. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Even
saying toasting in the board, that doesn't save that reality of what I actually seen.
Yeah.
And back then I thought, oh, okay, I inside. Then go to Bosnia, seeing the horror, the war, the buildings are destroyed, and dead cows sitting about, and dead horses and bodies and that, and then you'd seen the body bags on the television, and then you get in and try to stop people for killing each other, and then you go to Northern Ireland, one street's friendly, and the next street you're getting stoned, and it's like as if you're back home because everybody's speaking English. It's.
Did you find it? This sounds really fucking horrible. But did you find it an easier war going to Bosnia and Iraq, where they didn't speak the same language, they didn't look like how you looked, they didn't?
No, I would say Northern Ireland would have been easier because you kind of knew the areas. You see,
okay,
you knew the areas that were friendly, and you knew the areas that were unfriendly. Oh. So I'd say in some ways Northern Ireland was better.
Okay,
for going on a tour because you would know where the areas were that were dangerous. You knew the people that were dangerous. Do you know what I mean? Who the known people were at those areas. Or you know the areas that were dangerous where people had been shot, where there was a bomb or blah, 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 for past incidents. So I would say that you can't prepare for that for Iraq because you don't know. It could come from behind you, it could come from underneath, on top. Do you know what I mean? In Northern Ireland, it was a bit different. You could go into a Protestant area, but your guard would go down a little bit more. Coming into a Catholic area and getting bolted and battered and spit and pee and whatever onto you, totally different kettle of fish. Whereas in Iraq, you didn't know, was it going to come from the left, from the right, front, back, up, Same as what Afghan, for what I've seen.
Yeah.
The same sort of kettle of fish. So I'd have said that was a bit easier actually than and same with Bosnia and that, you didn't know, you could drive into a minefield, what happened, in Iraq, in Bosnia, where, people drove into a minefield that wasn't marked, it's, in Ireland, there wasn't any of that.
Thankfully I didn't do any tours. Well, I say thankfully, I wanted to, but none came up when I was in, so
be thankful for it in some ways.
Yeah. So struggling with your own mental health, how did you find still trying to keep it together to be dad?
My son knew that I had problems. I'd spoken to him. He was 16, 18 or so, 15, 16. And he knew that I'd been struggling with my dad dying and my friend killing themselves and stuff like that. And he knows that I got him into talk group and that. And he doesn't really talk to me much about it, really. But if he did ask me, I would sit him down and speak to him and tell him. But he knows that I went through some of the stuff. I've said to him, I went through a really hard time in Bosnia and Iraq and that. Suddenly went, I know, Dad. And he kind of gets it. But I really don't try to describe to him. If he asks me, then I tell him.
Yeah.
If he asked me and said, look, Dad, if he was sat me down and went, Dad, I'd like to know what you went through, then I would tell him. All the graphics, everything.
Yeah. Would you, if he turned around and said, Dad, look, I want to join the army, would you?
I would ask, I'd say to him maybe to try looking at, he did the army cadets, the army cadets, and it was there for him.
Yeah.
So, that kind of said to me, the army was there for him. If he'd have loved it, then I would have said to him, and I'd have said to him, maybe try and do a trade if you can. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being in the infantry, there's nothing wrong with it. It's a good career and all, do you know what I mean? You can progress. But, as an officer in an infantry battalion, it must be such a harder job than going into well, you did the same sort of training. Infantry training is a lot longer.
Yeah.
I think mine was 38 weeks. I can't remember how long what it is now, but I know that it's a lot longer training wise. And then you do your trade training. But I think trade training, you know, like I said, they're trying to change the infantry training. It's more educational now to help you prepare for getting out in Civvy Street. Yeah. Not like what, you know, and then you get your enhanced learning credits and standing learning credits and all that sort of thing. There's that bit more preparedness now.
So if you're in a recruitment office right now, 22 years old, and the recruitment sergeant gave you one bit of advice, one for your career and one post your career, what would you want him to have said to you?
Well, I would have wanted him to ask me if I had any education. And if I didn't have the education at 22 because I was that bit older, then I would have wanted him to say to me, could you do some more education to try and help yourself gain and attain, maybe like to try and get a trade? Do you know what I mean? To try and help me get a trade based. Yeah. But on the other hand, the infantry was not that all bad. You know, we did a driver maintenance instructor for Warrior 432, you know, which I enjoyed. I loved teaching the lads. You know, the banter and the hilarity. Some of the stuff you used to get up to, oh my God, you were a nightmare. I mean, you must have kept to see me at least 12 times. At least 12 times.
I'm not gonna lie, I was in trouble a little bit.
A little bit. I think it was Mr. Card. I go, oh God. Oh no, again. No, what are you doing here? Why are you here again? You said to me earlier, I know it's quite funny. You went, your Scottish voice, you had fear with your Scottish word. I'm thinking to myself,
honestly.
Really?
Yeah. The strong Scottish accent is scary as fuck. I was 23, 24 at the time. And then I'm going to see this massive Scottish fella who's going to scream at me and make me do loads of...
You said I schemed at you. I don't remember scheming at you.
You were scary.
But I didn't scream at you. I think I went, why are you here? I think I went, why are you here, Mr. Card? Like, oh. And you're like, oh no. Yeah. I'm like, why? And then the second time you came in, I went, why are you here again? And you're looking at him, I'm going, why are you here again? Really?
I'm blaming Baston for everything.
Okay. It's funny how all three of you were up at the same time. You know,
honestly, Baston's bad.
There's a bad influence on you. That's what you're trying to say, isn't it?
It is. I was first time I ever got arrested was because of Baston. We won't go into
got arrested.
Yeah.
I see that secret's coming out after the time.
That was during our second in our trade training.
Our trade training.
Yeah.
How lucky you, by if you'd have got arrested and you went in front of the regiment, mate.
No, you know what it was? Is because so you know when you're on parade on a Friday afternoon, the corporals always say, don't get into any trouble, don't get arrested, blah, blah, blah. The one weekend, he said, don't get into trouble, don't get arrested. I went and had a fight in Guildford. I won't go into details, but I got nicked. And then on the Monday morning, you know, every Monday morning on the first parade, they're always like, so did anyone get in any trouble? And then that Monday morning, I was like,
it was me.
It's like, Corporal. He was like, what happened, Card? I was like, I kind of got arrested at the weekend. And he was like, what happened? I was like, fighting in Guildford. He was like, was it with the other course? So there was another course at the time with like Lance Corporals and Corporals on. I was like, was it with the other course? I was like, no, it was with a civvy. And he was like, it don't matter then. And that's what he said. That's what Corporal said. So then I got called in front of the sergeant, had to tell him what happened, and then thankfully it kind of like got
washed under the water.
Yeah. So, but I was absolutely shitting myself. That Monday morning when they were like, anyone getting in trouble over the weekend? I was like, Corporal, that would have been me. I made myself sound like I was really bad. I wasn't actually really that bad.
No, you weren't really.
Yeah. I just...
My wife's got fond memories of you playing hide and seek with my son.
Yeah.
So, little things like that. You were a cheeky chappy at the best of times.
Still am. Can't help it. So you say that you went to the doctors, you went and they gave you antidepressants. You still taking them now?
Yes.
Okay. And then you started mental talk. And have you done any kind of therapy or anything like that?
Not really. I've got a friend called Steve and a friend called Steele, who's ex-US military, and they help me. They're my therapists.
Okay.
I go out with them, they go out with me, and they're my therapy. They're my therapist. I've been to a therapist. They don't understand. They don't get that. Unless they're ex-forces, they just don't get the same hilarity, the jokes, the part of being in uniform.
Yeah.
They don't get it.
So I spoke to recently a friend who had he had stillborn children, twins, and I said to him, would you ever think about therapy? And he said pretty much what you said. They won't get it. They won't relate to what it feels like to have stillborn twins. So I get what you're trying to say. I get where you're coming from in terms of they won't understand it, and you feel that they won't kind of relate to what you've gone through yourself.
That's the hardest part, is to be able to admit to yourself that there's something wrong, you know. That's the hardest part. I mean, unfortunately, my mum, she passed away 2 years ago, that in May, like next May, it'll be 2 years. And watching my mum, she was told she had terminal liver cancer. And that hit her, being told that she had cancer. She was told she only had 6 weeks to live, you know. And she lived till May. She fought it till May. She was a wee diamond. I showed you the video earlier on. You know, she was and watching her go, and then 8 weeks later, father-in-law. And when you're trying to recover from mental health, and then something like that happens, is like you're trying not to have a negative impact on you, but it does have a negative impact on you. And you try to discover from the rail crash that happened when mum's passed. You start to pick up the pieces, and then boom, and it's almost like, I've had enough of death. Please stop. You know what you're like, and you're out of control. And you're like, I'm not getting control of this, and then there's that no having control, scared. And there was a fear. Something else is going to happen. Something that feeling in there, and in there, playing the mic back of your mind, this wee voice going, something else bad's going to happen. Something else bad's going to happen. Something's good. You know what I mean? And then try to go, no, it's no, and convince yourself, don't think like that. Something bad, and it's hard sometimes, especially after my father-in-law. That was, and then obviously a couple of my friends, you know, he died, and then one of my friends, like I said, you know, suicide and stuff like that in the last couple of years. And then retrospectively, I'm thinking to myself, I'm stronger now. I'm stronger mentally, resilient now, knowing that I can go to people, I can phone up Steele. Hi Steele, it's Jimmy. I'm having a bad day today. Hi Steve. His mum died the Christmas that my mum was told she had terminal liver cancer. His mum passed. And he reached out to me through Men to Talk, went, hi Jimmy, it's me, Steve.
Met them through Men to Talk?
Yes.
Oh,
and
okay.
Steve rang me and said, I understand your mum's got liver cancer. I've just lost my mum. I'm here for you if you need me. And we've been I've contacted ever since.
Oh, that's
so
nice.
You know, and that's
how long ago was that?
That's 2 years now.
So 2 years.
2 years, yeah. Because that's obviously when my mum was told she had terminal liver cancer. His mum had passed, and he'd said to me, you know, I know what you're going through, because his mother had the same condition. Took her that amount of time.
So who put you in touch with Men to Talk then?
I just seen an advert for it online for Men to Talk, and I thought, you know something? I was looking for help, obviously, because at the time, and then I went to a meeting, and all the lads were there. They all had different health problems, you know, all different mental health problems. You know, like I said, one lost babies, like your friend. One had farmer, his son had committed suicide. Luke, the co-founder, his mum and sister had died in a car accident. So there's different people with different mental health problems. Not problems, that's the wrong word. Mental health issues. That's the word, no problems. No problem, it's an issue. Mental health issues, right? And that's why, you know, and my first meeting, like I said, it was kind of, and then you're hearing the stories in 2 or 3 weeks, and then I started to open up, tell them about what happened and how I was feeling, and with the antidepressant drugs, and look, and that said to me, you know, we're always here, and you're on a high, but sometimes you're not always on a high. Sometimes the low dips, and that's when Steele and Steve come in. But I know that if I feel that I need to get more out, then I could go to the Men to Talk group, and then or the man cave, you know, these man cave things that are starting, and that's a lot better. There's a lot more avenues now
So how long has Men's Talk been going then?
A good couple of years, 2 or 3 years now.
Okay.
Luke's been running it for a good couple of years now.
Oh, okay.
But it's on Facebook, Men's Talk anyway, and there's the main cave now, the man cave and all that now.
So the man cave is basically Milton Keynes and like the surrounding areas. And then there's also Andy's Man Club. There's like, I feel like we're in a position now where there's a lot more places where men can go to and reach out to. Which is good because like it is the biggest killer of men, like suicide. So the more support groups there are, hopefully, the less.
I would like to reach out to a lot of the forces that are out there and say to them, you know, that please don't feel alone. Don't ever feel alone. You're never alone. There's always somebody that you can turn to. Please don't commit suicide. The amount of people that I've seen, really upset. The last couple of months, you know, I've seen the amount of soldiers that are killing themselves, and it's absolutely heartrending. Seeing, you know, soldiers ending up in the streets and not getting any help, you know, any help whatsoever, and it's get washed under the carpet, you know, and treated like as if they were like secondary citizens, or they didn't matter, or they were just you said it something earlier to me, and you went, just a number. And you know something? You were right. You're right. Just treated like a number. As soon as the gate shuts, I've not had a phone call. I've not had an email. Yes, I get contact for the veterans and that, and I can reach out. But the army don't help you. I never have. You know, never had a wee letter or a wee note saying how you doing or checking what's been happening. Maybe nothing. You know what I mean? And how many soldiers did that I helped through Basingbourne and whatever? I'd say about 5 years. So you're talking, taking what 10,000. So out of that 10,000 men that's passed off, there's probably maybe still maybe 1,000 in. Do you know what I mean? I had a positive impact on you and Jones and Baston, and I'm hoping that through that thread, that golden thread, I've got a golden thread. That golden thread that'll go on and on and on and on and on forever. Do you know what I mean? Because each one will learn for that lesson, and then that. Do you know what I mean? But I think it's important to learn from past mistakes. But the army seems, I'm going to say seems to be learning from its mistakes. But I think it needs to be a lot quicker, a lot more money spent on it to help ex-forces. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I said this to you earlier on. I hope I'm wrong, but the lads that are coming back after doing Afghan tours, right? They're going to come back after doing 6 months. It's bang, 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 bang. 2 weeks at Ardennes, bang, 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 bang. Back home. 6 months later, bang, 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 bang. 6 months, bang, 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 bang. And then nothing for 2 or 3 years. Then Ukraine's coming up, and you're looking at Ukraine going, "Oh, wait a minute, could we get called up?" Then we're doing exercises near the Russian border and all that sort of thing, and they're talking about bringing recruiting, you know, and talking about national service and bringing recruits back and stuff like that. And you're thinking to yourself, "Oh, how close are we? You know, are they going to start bringing national service back?"
Do you think national service would work in this country?
I think it would depend on society has changed since the 1960s. I don't know. My wife's uncle was Uncle Gordon, God rest his soul. He did national service and he absolutely loved it. Right? It could be the making of some people, but it could be the breaking of some people. Society's changed a lot. I think since the 1960s when conscription was last in. Right? I don't think it would work because there's a lot of people that, number one, physically couldn't do it. 2, mentally couldn't do it. You know, and 3, wouldn't want to do it because why? If you think back in the day in the 1914s, if you didn't go to war, you were shot or called a coward. That was society back then. Now, everybody's you can be a conscientious objector and not want to go. You should have that freedom of choice. That's what freedom of choice is all about. That's why we fought the First and Second World War. You know what I mean?
I personally think if you're not in full-time education or full-time work at 18 years old, you should be made to do a year, 2 years, because I feel like I was 24 when I went in, and before then my work ethic was good. I always worked, but I would work and then probably do the bare minimum if I could get away with it. But the saying of "Don't be Jack" from day one of being in the British Army. I hear that.
Don't
saying.
think of yourself.
I hear that saying all the time when I'm at work, and I'm like, someone else can do that. I'm like, nah, that's Jack. So I end up doing it because in my head I'm always like, don't be Jack, don't be Jack, don't be Jack. So
you don't think of yourself, you think of the team. Aye. Yeah. There's no I in team.
That's what I'm saying. So like
that's an old saying, isn't it? Yeah. There's no I in team, is there? You know what I mean?
So from my working perspective, my work ethic and my discipline towards work, also like I wouldn't pull a sickie just to pull a sickie. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that's from the army. Before the army, I was like,
yeah, but I think maybe that's made the army's made you think that way in some ways because you were in. I mean,
so that's why
national service. It's kind of like a 50-50 with me. I can see what you're saying and the advantages of it, but on the other hand, I'm thinking to myself, well, you got to kind of look at it the way society's changed and the way society's changed. Back when I was in the army, I went, yeah, national service, not a problem. Looking back, but now that I've been out 10, 12 years and I'm looking at the army, I mean, they're struggling big time with recruitment. Have you seen that? They're struggling big time with recruitment because they just ain't selling it. And then they're talking about
military fuckers want to become YouTubers.
I know, but I'm not being funny, right? When the British Army could spend £500 million on an Ajax tank that does not work, it does vibrations and it's getting kept undercover and that, all these millions and millions of pounds getting spent on one tank, one vehicle, and then 31 guys are sick with because of the vibration that on it. Waste of money and a waste of time. Why couldn't they have bought a system that was already running? Do you know what I mean? Things like that. Yeah. That really annoys me. That really grates me. I'm thinking to myself, how many billions of pounds could you have had recruitment drives? And like, I mean, I would maybe say like conscription. Funny enough, you're talking about a national service. Conscription's very much like that in Germany. You've no choice in Germany, right? You do 2 years minimum military service, but they did struggle a lot. A lot of people would go 2 or 3 weeks and then go AWOL, and then you'd have people in jail and all the rest of it. So then the prison service would get overloaded, and so you know what I mean.
In terms of like,
it'd be making of some people. Don't get me wrong. It'd be making of a lot of young lads and lassies. Do you know what I mean? But like I said, there's a lot of society's changed.
So I say this in a very double standards way because no. I wouldn't want my son to go in. I wouldn't want my son to go in.
Why? Why not? You answer me. Come on, I've asked you. You've answered me questions. Why would you not allow your son to go in? If he said to you, 16-year-old, right, Dad, I'm not going anywhere. My education is absolutely pants. I'm not doing really well, but I could go to AFC Harrogate at 16 and they'll give me 3 meals a day, uniform. I'm going to be paid for being there. And after my 2 years, Dad, I could be joining as maybe going into being an officer and going to
I wouldn't let my son join the army.
Even if he said that to you?
Yeah. There's other options. There's other routes for him to go down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and no, I just wouldn't.
Just because you were put off, or I'm interested because I'd like to know. Do you know what I mean?
I developed.
It's a shame that you feel that way.
I developed as a man from the army, and I will always put my hands up and say, before the army, didn't really have that many male friends. As I said to you earlier, like I went into the army I came from a single parent home, and I didn't have any brothers and sisters.
See, that surprised me. I didn't know that.
Yeah, when I came in,
when you said that to me, I thought, "Oh, okay."
So when I came in, I
didn't know you'd just been brought up with your mum.
30 odd brothers, like straight away.
Yeah.
So I was always fucking around the block. I had a good time, and then the basic training was probably one of the best times. Passing out the British Army was probably one of my proudest moments. But since then, I've done a lot more reading. I don't believe in some of the wars that England are trying to do and trying to encourage and trying to go forward and forth.
If you look back in the first Gulf War, right, when we invaded Kuwait, they said it was about oil, and then the second Gulf War was to free Iraq, and it was about the oil. You know what I mean? You could quite rightly say, well, we were lied to both times. Weapons of mass destruction and all that.
So that's why
came out as a crock of crap.
If
you know what I mean?
Like, I wouldn't want my boy to be in a position of being shot at for a country which I don't really believe in and what
I'm sorry to hear that. Do you know? I'm sorry to hear that you don't believe in the country. I believe in the country, and I believe in the army.
In the government at all.
The government's questionable. I would say questionable in some of the decisions that they make. I mean, this is a thing I hate. It seems to me that people think, politicians think that mentioning war and war's this and war's that and war's great. War's not fucking great. I've seen, and so have others, seen the absolute horror of what war can do. We should never go lightly into thinking that war's okay, right? And go lightly into what's happening in Ukraine. I don't take that lightly. And that's because I've seen firsthand the absolute horror and absolute inhumanity that man could do to other men through religion and through hate. You know, I'm like, how can you live like that? You know, brothers killing brother-in-laws because they married a Muslim lassie. A Serbian married a Muslim lassie, or a Muslim guy married a Serbian woman and had kids, and then the Serbian brother-in-law goes and shoots the kids because they're a different religion. But yet 5 minutes before the war started, they were all loving family pictures and all that up and all that. How does crazy. That, you know, try to equate that into being a civilian? People just don't get it, you know. And religion and money, drugs always seem to be the main areas for why we go to war, you know. And apart from on First and Second World War, let's be honest, you know, I mean, if Hitler had won the war, we came close to losing the war, the first half of the Second War. You know, if Hitler had invaded after Dunkirk, we'd have been finished. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? We would have. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I don't know. I just want.
I kind of get where you're going. You know,
if Keir Starmer's son was going to fight next to my boy on the war, then I'll be like, Ro, you can go and do it. But his son ain't doing that.
You know what I think it's probably a protective part of you not being a father is because you know what you've seen what's happened, and you think to yourself, like you asked me about my son wanting to join, would I let him join? And I said, yeah, I would have feared it. And then, but there was some ways in my way, the fear of if something happened to my wife said to me, my wife said to me that she wouldn't want him to join, and she said the exact same reasons you did, but her main one was I wouldn't want to see my son come back in the box at 18-year-old and 19-year-old, and I'm like,
you've said,
whoa,
like you're still struggling from the mental things that you've seen and what you've been through
because you're not getting trained for it.
But then there is effectively, you don't know how your brain's going to react to what you see. No. So there is effectively no training for it. So I wouldn't want my son to
I get your point. I get your point. It's just that I know I'm not going to missell the army because they were good to me. You know, I had many good times. Many good times. I think it can be the making of a woman and a man. You know what I mean? I think it can be the making for individuals if you've got that certain military, you know, doctrine within you, and it can be a good career. You know what I mean? And then especially if you get out, you know, and you've got high ranking, you've got a good education behind you. After you get out, before you get out, a lot more selling a lot more of that now. I'm hoping that that's the case. You know what I mean? And the lads getting out do get that extra help. You know, I think it's important.
All right, so. Final thoughts, one thing the military taught you.
One thing the military taught me. Discipline, being disciplined. Being disciplined.
You still carry that discipline through now?
And courage and respect for others. When I was younger, you know, respect for your elders. My mum and dad kind of taught me, you know, my granny and all that. I love my wee granny, and that. But you aim to get different people for different cultures, different areas. You know, I went all over the world: Canada, Croatia, you know, Iraq, Bosnia. You know, everywhere in between. You know, royal family and all that. So you know,
so you said courage, discipline, and respect. Which one of those three would you say the most important value for you guys?
Respect. I think the value for respect for others, respect for other people, to respect their views. Like I've respected your views, to understand your point of view. I think that's important because it's wrong to have like your attitude. No matter what you think, what's what I think. No, you should always take. I think you have to take somebody else's perspective into consideration when you're looking at your own life and you're not. I've not lived your life. Do you know what I mean? And you've not lived mine. Yeah. But it's through. I think it's through interaction that you learn and you mature. I think age comes maturity. Do you know what I mean? I think as I've got older, I mean, I'm coming up to my 60s now, right? I was 22. I joined a little bit later. I wish I'd joined at 16. And in some ways, being that bit mature did help me, to get in through the forces, get through what I got through, and that maturity. But I think it's hard. It's hard to explain it. In a podcast, an hour, there's so much I could in depth to tell you. You know what I mean?
One thing fatherhood taught you.
To love unreservedly. You can love your daughters and your sons unreservedly. There's a whole heap of love that you can give them, and to teach them the life lessons that you've learned for your parents, and to help mould my son into the man that he is now, and how proud I am of him. I tell him every day that I love him. He tells me he loves me, calls me farter all the time. And that, I think that's,
So obviously, as we said earlier, which one's your favourite?
None of them. They're all the same. I love my daughter. I love my daughters just as much as I love my son. I think it's important to love your children equally, no matter what. Do you know what I mean? Who's first, who's last? It doesn't matter, because if you think to yourself you lost one of them, like I said to you, if you wanted to jump into a river, right, and there's one that's near the crocodiles, the one that's away from the crocodiles, you're going to say to the one that's near the crocodiles, get swimming. I'm going to go for the one for the crocodiles and try and kill the crocodile, or try and get you away from the crocodile. It's loves.
Obviously, we touched on it earlier, but of the St. Neots area, you've got what's the
man cave? The man cave. There's a man cave, and then there's a Menti Talk that goes on every 3 weeks at the golf club in St. Neots. It's the Menti Talk group on Facebook that I've been in looking at. He does that.
So I just want you to, one last thing before we shoot off. I want you to address someone who's going through PTSD or someone going through some mental health battles, and I just want you to give them a direct message.
I would say to you, don't ever think that you're alone. You're never alone. There's always somebody here. Even me on Facebook, Aaron, somebody that's served in the forces. Reach out to your compadres. Reach out to your friends. Reach out to your family. Don't ever be afraid to say there's something wrong. If there's something wrong in your life and you don't feel it's right, go to the doctors. Get the tablets. Approach Menti Talk. Approach your comrades. Approach the veterans' websites. Ask your mates in confidence, people that you're close to. Because trust me, there'll be one of them that'll be out there that might be going through the exact same stuff that you went through. The guys that served with you, reach out to them. I did. And there was guys there that went, you know what, actually, I went through that hard time. I've not mentioned their names, but there's people that was reached out to me and went, Jimmy, you know what, I actually went through the same sort of thing. I'm glad that somebody's speaking up and talking about it. And I think it's important, especially for veterans, that there is support there. There is people out there to help. Menti Talk, Veterans for Veterans is another one, Fortitude, and all of that. So please, if you're ever feeling alone or dark, in the darkness, and trust me, I've been there, those dark, evil thoughts that you can have, and I'm going to cause myself harm, or feeling that you're low, or feeling that you're worthless, don't do it. Pick up a phone, send an email, take a walk, go to your local scout group, help with your scouts, do something that's going to make you feel better. Turn that negativity to something positive. That's what I would say.
That's a brilliant way to end there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No, your timer. Thank you so much for your time.
Honestly,
it's been lovely today, and what a catch up.
Yeah, brilliant.
Well, man, this has been good. Cut.
Daddy, are you finished recording now?
Yep, that's a wrap.
Okay, tell them to like and subscribe.
Haha, you heard us. See you next time on Relatable Dads Unscripted.